I believe that census as an activity from the standpoint of just number collection would be wrong because I'm fundamentally against the manner in which caste is defined today. I've taken the position very clearly in the book, saying that in the last 75 years, there has been no attempt to move away from the administrative structures and definitions created by the British man as far as the Varnashrama Dharma in Bharat is concerned. And there are very clear records as to how they moved certain castes up and down as part of their census to not just create a divide, but also to create a sense of oppression and then reduce the resistance that was being given to the British man. So for instance, I'll give you a very clear example. If you don't mind me asking, you're welcome to refuse to answer this question. Which part of the country are you from? Rajasthan, okay. So have you heard of the Madurai Nayaks, the Nayaka kings of Madurai? So these are people who were previously the generals of Krishnadevaraya under the Vijayanagar Empire, who then went on to establish their own kingdoms. So if you go to Madurai, one of the go-to places is the Nayak Mahal. Okay. So the Madurai Nayaks, and there were other communities called the polygars. Okay, these were specific communities who were created under the British. The polygars effectively come from certain martial communities of the south. Okay, so in Madurai, so if you go to Tamil Nadu, there are 3 Kshatriya communities largely. You have the Counters, Devars, and the Vanniyars. So the Vanniyars come from the Salem and the, let's say, Salem region. The Counters come from the Kongu region, which is in Erode and Coimbatore and Tirupur. And if you go to the Devars, they come from the Madurai side. These people were so militant in their opposition, rightly so, against the British, is that the British establishment was limited to the forts that they established. The moment they went out, they'd be chopped off, they'd be hacked to death. And they would also have the support of other communities in terms of indoctrinating them on a regular basis, ensuring that they have men and material supply and everything. Around that period is when the caste census is undertaken slowly. They start the process. Madras Presidency is where caste was created. Read this fantastic book called The Caste of the Mind by Nicholas B. Dirks. And while this is a book that he's published, I think in 2002, his work on the subject dates back to 1992, at least from that. I've cited a significant amount of his work as part of my book. How they started doing that. And how missionaries, Christian missionaries, his name is Francois Dubé or Abbé, who was a Portuguese missionary operating in the Madras Presidency. His book on Jaati Pratha was the state of census. So what they do, they then approximate everything and they realize इससे इतनी तकलीफ हो रही है, इसको नीचे कर देते हैं वर्णाश्रम धर्म में. एंड उससे ये कहते हैं, ये जो है ना, ये चोटी शिखा पहनने वाला, ये तुम्हें शोषित कर रहा है. They push that and they start creating the divide. It's there in their works. The Governor General of Madras Presidency purchases this particular book by paying the price for the copyright transfer. He gives that missionary enough money to last him for almost the rest of his life. So before you start with the caste census, I would say start with the definitions. That's a long overdue process because the most weaponized form of identity in this country is neither gender nor religion, it is caste. Unfortunately so. And therefore there needs to be a very serious conversation on this. And it can't start with rhetoric, it needs to start with knowledge, it needs to start with facts, it needs to start with data. Emotion gaya tel lene. You start with that first. So the attempt has been to say, इतने सारे subjects में research के लिए scope है और उसकी need है, why are you not doing it? Now the state is not doing it because the state has a very clear political incentive to keep the caste arithmetic alive because it translates to electoral arithmetic. And you can't trust the state beyond a point. चाहे किसी की भी सरकार हो, I am very, very careful about my trust levels on sensitive issues. When the voting opportunity comes, I know which way the vote goes. But my fundamental, let's say, sense of reluctance or my circumspection with the state will always remain. Simply because the state still thinks like a colonial state. जिस दिन भारत का जो राष्ट्र है और जो राज्य है भारतीय तरीके से अपने आप को सोचना शुरू करेगा, तब मैं उस पर ज्यादा भरोसा करूंगा, तब तक नहीं करूंगा. Now, on this, what we have basically said is at least the society and universities must start talking about it. But that entire domain is occupied by post-colonial Marxists and Nehruvian establishment, which says जाति, वर्ण, कुला, कास्ट सबको मिला के खिचड़ी बनाओ और ये never extricate it. Never make it clear for people to understand what is the difference between these words, because it starts with language. You wanted a caste census, you did not ask for a varna census. You didn't ask for a Jaati census. There is a huge distinction. In that book, you will see proof of the fact that caste comes from casta, which is the first Portuguese word. Why Portuguese word? Why Portuguese word? Because they were the first colonizers of this country, not the British men. Madras was primarily established by the Portuguese, at least the establishment that you know today. The St. Thomas Basilica that's on St. Mount Road was previously the Kapaleshwara temple, which had to be pulled and taken away to a different place because they destroyed it. So you go to the Kapaleshwara temple in Mysore, on the outside you will see a board which clearly says, Mandir, all its traditional Puranic descriptions show the temple as being closer to the coast. Usko wahan se push karna pada. Right? Anyways, the point is, since they had notions of casta in their communities and society, they imposed that here. किसी भी मुद्दे का solution या हल जो है परिभाषा से पहले निकलता है. Language and paribhasha, semantics, that's where the game is. Because you see how it works on campuses. नाम दे दो, ठप्पा लगा दो, बात खत्म. ये संज्ञा है, इसका मुंह बंद करो. ये सवर्ण है, इसका मुंह बंद करो. ये वो है, मुंह बंद करो. That is the power of language. Anybody who has control over history and language has control over destinies.